My name is Mairead Burke and I'm from Brickens, a little place just outside Clamorris in County Mayo. When I finished school, I did social studies in college, and following that I worked for the Daughters of Charity in Dublin, and through various people that I met Sister Goretti Butler, who is the coordinator for volunteers abroad, and I ended up travelling to Ukraine to spend 8 months volunteering there with street children. I left on the 23rd of June last year. A friend of mine, Anne O'Driscoll, came with me, and I have to say it was the most fascinating experience of my life. When we arrived, we had no language, the language being Russian. Before we left, we didn't even know where Ukraine was. We had to find it in the map. We were very clueless about the whole culture, about traditions, about anything to do with Ukraine, the people, anything. But we learned fairly fast. People were quite wary of us when we arrived first, quite suspicious, especially that we were two Irish girls, and why were we volunteering and what brought us there. And we couldn't really answer that question for a while, but I suppose it was always something I'd planned on doing, but I just never considered going to Ukraine before. When we got there, we were kind of thrown in at the deep end, I suppose. On the second night we were there, we went out on a minibus, what we thought was just going to be stopping and dropping food off around the city, whereas in actual fact it's a bus that stops at 5 different stops around the city 6 nights a week. And not only does it stop and hand out food, it actually is a mini restaurant where the food is dished out to the children that come onto the bus. They sit down, they have a chat, they receive medical attention if they need it. Self-harm is quite a serious problem there. Also glue sniffing, alcohol. These children would live down manholes during the winter months due to harsh conditions. The climate is very cold during the winters and very hot during the summers. So during the winter they'd live in the manholes, and during the summer they would sleep in graveyards or on rooftops, or because the nights would be quite warm. That's what we started off doing, going out on the minibus, and basically that's what we did for the first 6 to 8 weeks. We went out on the minibus in the evening times and we studied Russian during the day. So that was a difficult task, trying to grasp the whole Russian language. The alphabet is completely different, but after a while, and once we were immersed in the language, we had no choice but to learn it, and it did come to us eventually. When we kind of found our feet, we started to visit orphanages. One in particular we went to 3 times a week. We started off by teaching English, but as time progressed we realised that there was no need for English classes, because the children there were not able to read or write in Russian. So we arranged for Russian teachers to go in to teach them during the day, because they didn't have the resources there for them, while we went then in the afternoon and we did different games. Their social skills wouldn't be great. There was maybe 16 children in one room, ranging from the age of 4 to 16 years of age. Bullying was a huge problem, but the children loved to see us come in, and we'd always bring some fruit and stuff for them, so we kind of spoilt them really in a way. Initially, when we would arrive to the orphanage, the security man wouldn't let us in. Because we didn't have the language, we just kind of barged past him and landed in. The director was quite friendly, and she was welcoming enough to us, and towards the end she was asking us to come back every day. So once time progressed, we did really get on well in the orphanage there. We also went to a different orphanage. It was children that were becoming independent. They had lived in the orphanage all their lives. They had everything done for them, so they moved into their own independent living, where they were learning how to cook, how to clean, how to sew, just the basics that you need for going off to live on your own in the big bad world. The culture was completely different. The traditions, for example, if it was your birthday, you had to organise your own birthday, buy all your own things and invite all your own guests. like buy your own birthday cake and everything. I found that quite unusual. Um, a lot of speeches, a lot of toasts, which I found were quite nice, but again, if they were in Russian, we could understand some of them, obviously not them all. Um, what else would be quite different? The weather is very. It was hot summers and cold winters, so even clothes wise, it was difficult to know what to pack in the beginning. I came home for Christmas, and for various reasons, I had to come home in November, and I stayed on until mid-December and came home for Christmas. And by that stage, I found that I was just starting to really get into the whole swing of things. My language had improved. I had got to know the kids in both the orphanage on the minibus, and there was also a day centre, and I knew the kids coming there as well. And I thought, like, what's the point in having learned all this language and gotten to build up such a good relationship with these kids, and then just going home? I suppose there were no job opportunities in Ireland either, so I decided I would go back after Christmas. That was a tough one. I went back early January after having a brilliant Christmas. I went back to the cold. I was on my own because Alan didn't come with me. There were no other volunteers there, but after a week I was back into the swing of things again. They were fantastic. The people were fantastic. They really made me feel at home. They became a new family, really. And then I returned home at the end of March. Financially, I suppose it was quite difficult. Ukraine were also going through a financial crisis. Work was very difficult out there for people to find work. So I decided it was time to come home. I still am in regular contact with them. I'm due to go back on the 13th of August, just for a week for a visit. So I've had a lot of people giving clothes and giving donations to go towards the people in Ukraine, because they'd hear me talking about it all the time, and I don't know, is it to shut me up or what is it? But people have been fantastic, so I'm going to go back with some clothes and with some donations for the kids over there, which is brilliant. So yeah, it was a really fascinating experience. It was brilliant, and I would definitely recommend for anybody to go and do the same.